Okay, hi everyone. Apologies in advance that I did not time this. Let me look at my time. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, so my talk is called Pro or Anti-IRL. Are we designing games for our players' real lives or against them? Just trying to think of some ideas for making guidelines to ourselves for making games that make our lives a little bit better, our real lives. Oh yeah, I did make these shrimp earrings. Okay, hi, my name is Ava. My pronouns are they, them. I live in Brooklyn. I teach 3D animation at NYU Game Center, but I also do other bunch of stuff. Picroot credit is here, by the way. I'm sure everyone's seen this, but just in case. So this talk isn't about design-oriented, really nitpicky conversations about that kind of stuff. I'm not really a game designer specifically by trade. You can see there's a bunch of writing about specific mechanics that generally people seem to think are unhealthy for players. A really good reference is Charles Huang's work on humanistic game design, which I have a link for here. He has a website. If you do /moral game design, you can see his talks there. If you want to get into like what mechanics he specifically recommends for or against, and that's that. My personal story that inspired this is I used to play Skyrim all the time in high school when I was like not in a great life environment and I didn't have much control over my life. And it really helped me in this fantasy world feel like I could be who I wanted to be, which is apparently a thief cat. And be in this beautiful world where I was so free to do everything. And that was amazing for my mental health and time. It's exactly what I needed. But now I'm more interested in engaging in my real life. My real life isn't as bad anymore. I'm an adult. I have more control than I used to have. And these games that are like 1,000 hours of gameplay don't appeal to me nearly as much because they tend to feel like they're sucking something out of my life rather than giving to it, which is disappointing because I love Skyrim so much. But, when the sequel comes out, will I feel comfortable playing it that much time? I'm not sure. The big picture I'm talking about is just kind of thinking of what's the net positive for your player's life after playing your game. If you haven't noticed, we are mortal, so we have a limited amount of time to spend. And, here are some questions that I ask myself about games that I've played, and I'm sure your players will ask themselves about the game that you make. Have I gained something from the time spent playing this? Has it introduced a new idea of perspective? Especially narrative games tend to do this a lot. Does this inspire me? Did I have a memorable time? Have I enjoyed myself either by myself or have I spent this time enjoying it with others? It doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be revolutionary necessarily. But, was this something that I feel like I'm glad that I did that, I actually tend to think that with games specifically, like really AAA commercial games, we tend to assume that bigger is better, especially gamer culture tends to think that longer hours is better. You're looking for bang for your buck. But I'm trying to say, let's not assume that this is our goals for making games anymore. And then I also like to think, we like to come up with our emotional goals. A lot of us think of what are our target emotions when you design for a game, but we're usually thinking about what are your target emotions during the game. I'm asking, what about your target emotions for way after the game is done? What do your players feel like down the line, like a year later? Do I feel good later? Like, is it like a post junk food? I ate all that junk food kind of feeling? Or is it yeah, I had a healthy meal feeling? I know that's a little bit abstract, but I'm sure some of you relate to that. You might feel differently after certain games. Basic logistics that you can easily talk about are time spent, money spent, social interactions you had with it. My friend and also coincidentally roommate Blake Andrews wrote a list called 200 Games I Won't Play that was controversial, expectedly, and I will show you that right now. Take a look, donate some money if you would like. I don't have time to explain all of this, but they came up with a list of games based on how little they want to play these games, despite everyone asking them to play them. And I don't know, it's a lot about, hey, my time is worth something. That's a lot of the thesis of this. And I think your player's time is worth something. So, I will not get into that for too long. Another thing I tend to think, I said there's no hard rules, but one of my rules is I tend to think time spent with people you care about is usually never wasted, but not all games are designed necessarily to be spending that time with people you care about. There's lots of good examples, and I've done this, making new friends on online spaces, and that's incredibly important. But some games aren't necessarily like, that's not the default. You might just be playing with random people. Basically, as I wrap this up, I just want to say you should create your own rules. When you make a game, think about your audience. For example, adults generally have less time. Think about your goals and come up with some limitations, guidelines, etc., to guide your development for these sorts of long-term humanistic goals. And a big thing for me is there's no hard rules. For example, the same game that did not change, Skyrim, was amazing for me. I would say kind of life-saving for me in high school, but now I don't think I could touch it. It wouldn't be good for me. So the same game could be good for some people, bad for others, and both for the same person at different times. So definitely not trying to be dogmatic here, just something to think about when you're making your games. So I'm gonna wrap it up now. Thank you, everyone.